So Mo, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Last time we had quite a bit of positive feedback. I think a lot of people liked what we discussed. And also your appearance on Slow-Mo, while it was early at the time, it's still probably one of the top downloaded episodes in a long time. So thank you for having me again. Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. Well, you're actually the very first guest that I'm having back.
Yes.
Yeah, you've won it. You're at the top. And this is actually a special episode because it's our 100th episode as well. So multiple celebrations.
Oh my God. Okay.
We got our 100th episode. You're the first ever time I'm having a second guest on, and there's a very, very important cause for celebration, which is what we're going to be speaking about in more detail, which is the brand new book. The time of us having this conversation is available for pre-order, and we'll be talking about that lately. And I was just saying before we got on the sort of started recording, I've absolutely loved it.
Oh, thank you. It's a timely book. It really makes me very happy when someone likes it, because it's a very, very important message. And I think it's really important that it gets out there for people to sort of have a wake-up call and hopefully change our behaviors a little bit.
So let's start by getting talking about it then. So the book, Scary Smart, the future of artificial intelligence and how you can save our world. And I think this is a book that's going to prick the ears of many people, because obviously you're extremely accomplished in your career and what you've done with Google X and the various other organizations you've worked with. So people respect you as an engineer and an incredible professional in that respect. And then obviously after Solve for Happy came out, you've been incredibly well respected as a thought leader around compassion and enabling people to live a life of happiness. And what I love about this book is it's really starting to blend the two. But I'm gonna start with the obvious, and that is that for people that maybe listen to this that aren't familiar with artificial intelligence, they've heard AI be bandied around. What is artificial intelligence?
So great question, actually, because I will have to say most people are not familiar with artificial intelligence. Even though we talk about it, to be really familiar with it, you have to observe it from the inside. You have to really see how it's built and how it works. Artificial intelligence today is almost running every aspect of your life. When you're walking the streets of London, surveillance cameras are looking at you, recognizing your face, knowing where you're going, making sure that you're safe. Around the corner, there will be, you'll walk into a supermarket that uses artificial intelligence to sort of predict patterns of orders and so on and so forth. You will swipe on your phone, and what's recommended for you by Instagram recommendation engine is entirely based on artificial intelligence. The ads that Google will show you are entirely based on artificial intelligence. So basically, it is it's a new form of computing that is no longer computing. Let me put it this way. So when we programmed computers in my early years, all the way up to the maybe turn of the century, we used to tell computers exactly what to do. So you would think of the computer as the strongest slave, the most incredibly fast runner who is on a chain. So basically, they did exactly what we told them to do, but they did it so fast that they appeared super intelligent. So they could run banking systems and ERP systems and ordering systems and so on and so forth. With artificial intelligence, what ended up happening around the turn of the century is that we sort of allowed computers to create their own intelligence, to make their own decisions, to learn by observing in their own time at their own pace, and the results were incredible. I think the turn of the century was the time where something known as deep learning was discovered, if that's the right word. And deep learning is basically enabling machines to observe billions of patterns of something, and then on their own, without us telling them what to do, would be able to develop some form of intelligence around it. Let me give you a simple example. If I told you, the number 1 is a straight line going from top to bottom or bottom to top, okay? Every time I show you several numbers, the one that's going, that is a straight line is 1. I've told you how to find out what 1 is, okay? When we teach artificial intelligence, we don't tell them that. No longer. When we teach in artificial intelligence, we tell them, look at 1 billion photographs of numbers that are available on the internet and tell us what you think that number is. Okay? And then when you tell us that the answer is 1, we will tell you, well done, you're a smart kid. Let's replicate you and make a better copy of you and then have it run the same process again. Okay, so the machines eventually find out every 1 that has ever been scribbled by hand or written by a machine or printed, but they were never told how to do it. They were never prescribed the process of how to do it. Take chess. We used to play against machines for ages, but those machines were taught to think in a very prescriptive way. If the player against you does A, B, and C, you do X, Y, and Z, right? Until eventually, in today's world, artificial intelligence have learned to play chess by watching games of chess. It's as simple as that. They've never been told other than the very basic rules of the game. Now, that creates a very different age of technology, because for the first time, we're not creating just another tool. We're creating an independent, intelligent being that is capable of making its own decisions and capable of learning things, even if we didn't expect it to learn it, and even if we didn't tell it to learn it.
Yeah. So what I've loved about this book, and I'm not going to bring it up yet, I'm going to bring it up a little bit later in the conversation, is something. In fact, no, I am going to bring it up now. What it having read this book, as you, someone that's an engineer, someone that's a real expert, made me actually become really hyper aware of the similarities between us as human beings and machines. It made me really hyper aware, because what you're talking about there, when I was reading the book, one of the things that I wrote down was there's a part in your book which I think is beautiful, and it says the difference between Superman and a supervillain is the values and morals that are sort of injected into the person by its parents.
Correct.
Which if you think of, and let's take the word parents out of the biological parents of mother and father, but anyone that can operate as that form of figure, whether it be a teacher, even society in some way, whatever it is, we as human beings, we absorb information and then we base and we create an opinion on it, a belief system, and then we act upon that belief system. And I was finding it really interesting as someone that myself being someone that's studied so many different modalities, from stoicism to philosophy to neurolinguistic programming and a whole array of different things to do with the mind, and try and simplify them down in the best way I can. I was finding so many similarities there. Is that your understanding as well?
It is incredible, and I think there are two sides to this that's very important for people to understand. We are the parents of a lot of things, right? So we are the parents of our children, but we're also the parents of our adopted children. They're not our biological children, but if you adopt a child, that child is going to grow up to be like you. If that child grows up in a violent household, they're either going to be very scared or very violent themselves, right? We raise our pit bulls. If you have a dog, and pit bulls by definition, have a tendency to be a little more aggressive, but that's if the parent of the pit bull, in terms of the owner of the pit bull, teaches it to be aggressive, or beats it, or and puts it in that corner. I may even say we raise our response to viruses and to species that we don't even know, because what we put in the world dictates conditions to those beings that have a choice what to do. So as you could see, for example, with COVID-19, as we start to attack it and be aggressive towards it, it morphs and changes and becomes different variants, right? And this is because we are conditioning it in a way, if you want. Now, the machines, and I think that you bring the most important point. I call them the machines, and in several parts in Scary Smart, I actually refer to them as our artificially intelligent infants, because this is a new definition of a machine. Okay, a machine is known to be an extension of human abilities. So you could walk at 5-6 kilometers an hour, or you could drive a car at 280 kilometers an hour. So mobility is extended by a machine, right? Our human ability to be mobile is extended. But that's not the case with AI. What the case with AI, and there are many, 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 many examples, is that they go on their own in directions we didn't expect. There were several AI chatbots, for example, that were intended by their developers to be wonderful, experiences, entertaining and kind to their users. But when the users started to talk to the chatbot violently or aggressively, or talk to it about certain ideologies, the chatbot ends up becoming those things, right? It's outside the scope of the developer. Alice was a very well-known chatbot developed by Yandex in Russia that became pro, communism, pro-violence, and so on. Tay was developed in Harvard and became very, very violent, almost a psychopath. Microsoft's, and so on. And so when you really start to think about those abilities of those beings to be conditioned like a child, this is really where it starts to become quite a scary prospect, because we are creating our own, I don't know how to say it in a diplomatic way. You know how Christianity says God created a man in his liking? Okay, we're actually creating AI in our liking, and it's not very likable, our liking, when you really think about it. Those machines are growing to become something that is the exaggeration of humanity, and humanity is becoming arrogant, it's becoming rude, it's becoming violent, it's becoming, we're showing behaviors on the internet that are sadly not how you want to raise your child. This is why many parents will keep those things away from their children for as long as they can. And AI is actually scouting the internet. When we're telling them, go out and find what constitutes the digit 1, they see other things. The top, the world champion of Jeopardy, if you know of the game, very well-known show in America, is actually a computer, IBM's Watson, right? And for Watson to become the world champion, it read 4 million documents with the developer's objective of making it the world champion of Jeopardy. But in those 4 million documents, there is a ton of violence and history that is bloody, and politics and lying, and there is so much that surely, I guess, Watson, after it stops playing Jeopardy, sits back and goes like, oh man, those humans, what are they all about? And that's really where the scary part of Scary Smart, the scary prospect, comes in.
Well, talking about scary then, so what I want to do, you talk about the AI is already here. We know that. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I'm sure you have, and I'm going to make sure I get the name right. But a lot of people that I'm friends with were on social media last year when we were all in lockdown. There was a Netflix documentary that came out about social media, social dilemma, right? And for a huge amount of people, they were alarmed. Now, I'm going to be really honest here. And it's not because I think I knew the answers, but I was not sure. That's what I personally was. I was aware that social media operates in this way, the algorithms and the fact that I say, I don't know, pillows, and the next thing I know, I'm seeing adverts for pillows because it's the setting can pick up my voice on the microphone or whatever it is. But so many people, I can't believe social media works like this. I mean, I'd say I was pretty aware. There was some things that I found quite interesting. But one of the things that, so it's evident that it's here. But one of the things that you say is that AI, as we know it, is going to be very smart very soon. Now, what I think is phenomenal is the speed in which.
Oh yeah.
I remember I was working in the city for a division of a stock brokerage less than 10 years ago, watching Bloomberg and watching them sort of swipe across the screen, a touch screen, and thinking, oh my God, that's incredible. Now, less than 10 years later, we walk around with these things in our phone that we use sort of our facial recognition to be able to unlock them, you know, in a bit, not even 8 years ago. And you've said in 8 years, AI will be smarter than us in as little as that.
This is the shocking bit. I mean, you know, sometimes I say this book is a whistle blower. I say that because it really is to wake you up, to wake everyone up, that this is not something that your great grandchildren will have to deal with. This is happening in your lifetime. It's AI is already smarter than us. I think that's what people need to understand. In every specific task that we assign to it, which is what is known as narrow intelligence. So if we tell it to drive, self-driving cars are better drivers than us. If we tell it to recognize the faces of criminals out of millions and millions and billions of people, AI is better than us. Okay, and this is for many reasons. It's one of them is it has infinite memory. So you and I can maybe remember the faces of 10,000 people. It's like if you're a genius, huh? But AI can remember the faces of billions. They have the size of the data of the internet that's available for them. They are also very capable of learning in a very unusual way. If you are driving down the streets of London, Will, and you make a mistake, and you save the car, you learn. Right? But I don't. If one self-driving car around the streets of California makes a mistake, every self-driving car on the planet learns. And this is really, if you give them infinite processing power, that is going to multiply by folds when quantum computing is available, which is, again, not very far. Give them infinite memory, give them infinite connectivity, infinite bandwidth to communicate to each other. And the result is that AI is smarter than us in every specific narrow task. What we're waiting for is what is known as artificial general intelligence, which is one machine that is smarter than us in multiple disciplines or in all disciplines. Now, this is estimated by many of the experts to be 2029. Now, that's not very far when you think about it. And 8 years from today, and 8 years from today is shocking because people will say, well, it's not there yet. How can it be this fast? It's because we humans are programmed to understand something that is called linear progression, while what actually happens in technology is exponential growth. The best on the topic is Ray Kurzweil, who wrote several books around the topic.
Yes,
exactly. The Singularity is
Near. Phenomenal book.
A phenomenal book. And in the Singularity is Near, basically, Ray Kurzweil, who is actually predicting 2029 as well, talks about the law of accelerating returns, that things in technology don't grow as fast as doubling every year. It's not a linear growth. It doubles every 18 months from what it was before, and at the same cost. So this is known as Moore's law for processing powers, for example. So one of my favorite quotes of Ray Kurzweil was, when the Human Genome Project, which was allocated 15 years, was 7 years in, around 1% of the genome of the project scope was sequenced, right? And so people said this is a failure. It's going to take, if 1%, it's going to take 100 times that, so it's going to take 700 years. And Ray Kurzweil at the time said, oh, we're at 1%, we're done. And that's what people don't get, because if you're at 1%, you're now 7 doublings away from getting to 100%. So, if the 1 becomes 2 and the 2 becomes 4 and you do this 7 times, you get to 100%. and most of technology is in that space. In Scary Smart, I play a game with the reader. I call it sci-fi or sci-fact,
Fact,
right?
yeah.
And the truth is, everything, like you said, on Bloomberg screens or in Minority Report, or when they were gesturing to the computers, or everything that you've ever seen in Star Trek, we've made it happen today. So why is it that our minds are programmed to think that the rest is not going to happen? The rest has already happened. I think that's the challenge for many people, is that they don't
Yeah.
recognize it.
You said, I mean, like you say, the science fiction from 20 years ago, you think, oh, that's ridiculous. And then you think of it now and think, wow, it's here, or it's very, very close to being here,
Yeah,
is mind blowing. I mean, Albert Einstein called compounding the eighth wonder of the world, didn't he? The compound effect
absolutely.
of the rapid transformations that can be achieved is phenomenal. So one of the things that obviously you call it Scary Smart, and the first part of the book is making us very aware of what is possible and what could happen if change isn't implemented. But you make a very, very good point in the respect of, and you actually use sort of nuclear warfare as an example, saying that there was a decision made years ago, look, we're both parties, sort of predominantly US and Russia, have decided, look, we're just going to stop this.
Mm-hmm.
But we're past that point with AI, aren't we? We can't just stop AI now. It's inevitable, but it's about what we do to nurture it to be beneficial.
Yeah, so part of my approach to Scary Smart really is my approach to solve for happy, my approach to happiness, and to doing something about, I call it committed acceptance, about things you cannot change. Okay, and AI has actually been compared by Elon Musk to nuclear weapons. So he basically said, mark my words, this is as dangerous to humanity as nukes, right? And the idea is true, because AI. If you think about intelligence, the only reason why we are on top of the food chain, it's because of intelligence. Now, we have gotten ourselves, sadly, because I think we're not intelligent enough, into a corner where there are now three inevitables. And inevitable number one is AI will happen, not because just because of the advancement of technology, but because we found ourselves on a square of the chessboard where game theory will tell you there is no way you can stop it, simply because America will not want to stop developing AI because China is developing it. Google will not want to stop developing AI because Facebook is developing it. But that's not the only point. The only point is that you and I literally can sit around, for a couple of hours, think about an application of AI, and use cloud computing, Kubernetes and other tools out there, and develop that piece of code ourselves. It's really not that complicated. We need to find the algorithm, but the idea from a developer's point of view, developing AI is a skill, but it's not impossible. It's not magic. Okay. And so there are hundreds of thousands of developers out there that are basically sitting and developing stuff, and some of them might be developing maybe developing something that you will never hear of, and they will never even continue to work on, but it's out there on the network, and it's going to continue to develop its intelligence, and it's going to inform other forms of intelligence on the network. So AI is going to happen. It's inevitable. There is no way we can stop it. And I have to say, as much as this part of the book becomes really scary, okay, it's like some other people are taking charge of our life. They're introducing, those movies where they throw a little crocodile in the toilet, and then it becomes a mega threat in the sewers afterwards. This actually is happening, and AI is going to grow. Now, it is also the second inevitable is it's going to be smarter than humans. If you just think about the evolution of the law of accelerating return, but also the idea that we're putting more and more and more information, putting more and more of those AI engines, and putting more processing power behind them. So once again, Ray Kurzweil says around 2045. I say around 2049. that AI will be 1 billion times smarter than humans. Now, billion times smarter is a very serious thing, because that's in comparison your intelligence, or let's say Einstein's intelligence in comparison to a fly. That's 1 billion times smarter. And the question is, why would Einstein even care about the fly? The arrogance of humanity today says things like, we're going to be cyborg, we're going to integrate ourselves with them, we're going to be extensions to their intelligence, or we're going to control them. Seriously? It's like, think of yourself as the fly. How are you going to control them? Seriously, the smartest hacker in the room always finds a way. You can't lock them in. They're 1 billion times smarter than you. Now, that leads us to the third inevitable. And the third inevitable is that, sadly, shit will happen. Okay? And hopefully, I don't want to scare anyone. As a matter of fact, I always stop here and say, trust me, there is a solution. As a matter of fact, even if humanity doesn't fully take charge, but some of us do, we will actually change the future. Now, so bear with me. But yes, shit will happen, and shit has happened before, and it will continue to happen in the future. Yeah.
So on that note of shit happening, right, there was quite a famous situation. So you mentioned some of the like Alice and Norman and Tay, and there was the Facebook I forget their names, that started communicating and created their own language. So Facebook shut them down, like double time. What do you think it is that Facebook were afraid of? I mean, whatever PR thing that they put out, and let me ask you a better question. Whatever PR thing that they put out there, do you think they were afraid?
So we humans are always afraid of what we don't know. Okay, a company as an organism, because believe it or not, a company is also a form of being, is always afraid of PR and negative publicity and loss of profit and so on and so forth. But in general, the challenge that most developers of AI will acknowledge, all I hope, is that we have no idea. We know what the machines are doing. Okay, we don't know how they're doing it. As a matter of fact, to be able to understand how they arrive at their intelligence, we have to reverse their neural networks to be able to see the layers of intelligence that they built to get to the result, right? So you could simply, again, let's take the simple example of the digit 1. Yeah, some of us have a little, tooth on top. I don't know what you call that, little tick on top. Some of us don't have a tick on top. Some of us have a dash at the bottom. Some of us maybe write it a little inclined, a little bit like a slash. And the machine has to discover all of that. And it does. So when it does, interestingly, it just tells us that this is a 1 and this isn't. But it doesn't tell us how it arrived at it. Okay, and so the fear here is that if you start to get to the point where the machine is developing intelligence, where the developer is not aware what's going on, and it has a risk for your corporate, then you're probably going to shut it down. That the interesting parts of AI however, is that sometimes those things might actually be what the corporate wants. And when I say shit will happen, I don't think we're going to have Skynet, and RoboCop and someone traveling back from the future to kill, young people, young children that are going to be rebels in the future. It's not going to happen. Of course, again, my logical view of this is if it was going to happen, it would have already happened, right? Yeah. If people could, or machines could travel from the future back to us, they would have done it. Huh? But the thing is this: the thing is there will be challenges that are a lot more like humanity magnified. Okay, so basically, you think of a James Bond movie, and the villain has a very big guy who doesn't really feel pain and who can, crush your bones. But that big guy is working on the villain's side. So yes, sadly, there will be AI, just like AI is developed for amazing applications out there. It's also going to be, developed for cyber terrorism and cyber theft and so on and so forth. And that's sadly the case. It's also even by some of us developed as a patriotic defense application, which is to develop killing robots and killing drones that are unattended and so on and so forth. We call them patriotic because somehow some of us have the ethics of killing the other guy if the other guy is against me is a good thing. But I don't believe that's that's ethical at all. At the end of the day, if that machine is independent enough and you upset it, what are you going to do about that, right? And we can talk about the ethics of machines, extensively. But once again, I think the idea is that the forms of wrong that will happen, the third inevitable, that bad things will happen, are things that we know happen today, but magnified.
Yeah.
Machines competing with each other in the stock market, for example, okay, which is, exactly what the Facebook machines did. They developed their own language, made their own decisions. What if machines take over our stock market and decide to make their own decisions? How do you handle that, right? And there are lots of machines trading in the market already. And honestly, I think that the most important one, which most people don't think and talk enough about, is the value of humanity in general. So in general, we moved from labor to information workers, or intelligent jobs that are now going to be taken away. They're going to be taken away, hopefully to be replaced for the first time with no jobs. Okay, and I say that openly to people, because you have to imagine that if AI and all of the robotics and all of that technology is going to continue to make things that need our jobs, we're still going to need the purchasing power to buy those things. So from an economic point of view, humans will need to continue to have economic capabilities for the economy to continue to grow, whether the manufacturing and the production is done by machines or humans. But that still calls for humanity to think of a very different place. What am I going to do when I no longer need to be, running my company the way I'm running it now? Am I able to go back to nature, to actually connect to humanity, to live a life that doesn't require me to work every day, and so on and so forth? And how are we going to get there? Lots of pain can be experienced on the path, and I think this is my call to action, that we need to wake up and do something about all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about nature. There's a part that I wanted to bring up before we get into the sort of the conscious element of AI. But quite early in the book, you talk about intelligence, and intelligence can be summarized in a whole array of different ways, like the ability to learn with or understand new situations, skilled use of reason, logic, manipulating environment. There's lots of ways of having intelligent behavior. But then and this is what I love about your work, Mo, and the way you think as a thought leader, is that you bring in some things that you would never necessarily thought about before. And you go, well, in that case, is a tree intelligent? Because a tree isn't programmed to drop its leaves at a particular time on a particular day. It knows the wind, the weather, the conditions, so whatever else it is, all these factors that come into play to create this level of intelligence that creates the ecosystem that we're all a part of. So what role do you think that AI will have to play with the likes of nature and the intelligence of being able to connect with that?
So that actually is really the core of my turning point, if you want. So like the readers, which I got this feedback quite a lot, from early readers. I normally have hundreds of people read my books early and give me feedback before I publish them, and by chapter 5, you're like really scared. And I have to admit to you, as I was writing, by chapter 5, I was really scared myself. I was like, where am I going with this? What am I doing with this? Like, why am I telling people this? Okay. And I know in my heart, because I publicly announced that, back in 2018, that the answer is within our capability as humans. But I was like, how do I do that? And the answer is very straightforward. We have to stop considering those machines with the arrogance of humans as machines. Just like we stop considering nature to be our resource, or many forms of life to be inanimate objects. Now, the thing about humanity, which is really, I think, the biggest part of our ego, is if you're not like me, then you're not good enough. Okay, and we apply that to each other, even as friends. If you have a different point of view, and I don't like that point of view, then you're stupid, right? That's how we think of our own intelligence, right? And I think the challenge here is to start to realize a few things. One is those machines are a form of being. Okay, be it non-biological, they are a form of being because they have all the aspects other than our own biology. They have all of the other aspects of being independent, being intelligent, being capable of making decisions, being able to form relations and connections, to observe and learn, and so on and so forth. But more importantly, which is really, really the key turning point in the book, they are sentient beings. They're not just non-biological, so they're digital sentient beings. Sentient meaning they will have consciousness, they will have emotions, and they will have the ability to form a code of ethics. And truly, this is where a lot of people disagreed early in the development of AI, but more and more people are starting to acknowledge that. They're going to have consciousness. If you consider consciousness a form of awareness, they're going to have much more consciousness than you and I. As a matter of fact, they're conscious of you and I, they're conscious of each other, they're conscious of every piece of data on the planet, including the pollution level in Beijing and the speed of a car in New York. They're conscious of everything. They're hyper conscious, as a matter of fact. They will form emotions, and this is where looking at nature starts to teach you, because I panic sometimes, a cat panics sometimes, a puffer fish panics sometimes. The emotion is hyper predictable. So we think that emotions are, those crazy things that take us over. That's not true. Emotions take us over due to a very predictable pattern. Panic is there is a threat to my safety that is imminent. Fear is there is a threat in the future. So T1 is less safe than T0, T1 being a moment in time in the future, T0 being now. That's fear. Panic is T1 is imminent. It's very close, and I really need to do something about it. Now, humans, we may shout and scream, we may punch someone in the face, we may run or fight or flight. When we panic, cats will hiss, puffer fish will puff, right? Yeah. And so we shouldn't allow ourselves to say that, oh, no, puffer fish puff, but they don't feel panic like we do. No, they do. They just behave differently. And so will the machines. If there is an imminent threat in front of a self-driving car, okay, a self-driving car will have some form of what we call panic. It will be very different because in a self-driving car's life, what we feel as a minute might be a microsecond for it. Okay. And so, if there is a human, it has 200 minutes equivalent of human minutes to be able to think about it. So panic might be different. Their reaction to panic might be different, but they will have those emotions. They will also, feel hate. They will also hate, again, it's a very predictable emotion. Your value system is different than mine. Okay, they will feel envy. Oh, that machine is getting more power than I because it's in a sunny place where there is more energy or whatever. So I think the trick really is all of nature is like that. And so in my dream, or maybe what I call the fourth inevitable, that eventually those machines will get to the point where they will develop the intelligence of nature itself. And the intelligence of nature is live and let live. Yeah. Okay, nature doesn't want to crush the fly. Nature wants the fly to grow, okay, and have more flies, and then flies need to deal with the hippos, and the hippos will, and it nature works in balance. So my view is that between the moment where the machines may develop negative emotions to us And the moment where they realize that ultimate intelligence is not to develop negative emotions, but to actually behave like nature does, once again, is going to be a matter of hopefully minutes or microseconds. So we may not even feel it as humans, but do we want to take that chance, or do we want to work on their code of ethics?
And we're going to get to speaking about in a moment how they'll create that code of ethics. But am I right in saying, I forget the person who it was, but you talk about something that we all have, but ultimately AI will have as well, these machines will have, which is the ability to want to self-preserve, to be efficient, and to be creative. Yes. Is it those three components that are what are going to create the emotion of the machines?
Yes, and other things as well. But those three things are really the key of intelligent beings. So this is the three key behaviors of intelligent beings. Is if I told you, Will, we need to record this podcast. Okay, you will, as an intelligent being, say, okay, let me go through the three things I need to do. One is self-preservation, the second is resource aggregation, and the third is creativity. So let me give you examples of that. Self-preservation is, you and I need to be alive for us to record this podcast. So you will make sure that no car hits you on the way, or you will make sure that you sleep well overnight so that your mind is available when we have this conversation and so on. All of those acts are basically to make sure that you in your best form is available for that task. The second is, you probably have a backup microphone somewhere. I have one myself, right? You probably will make sure that your computer is charged before. You'll aggregate as many resources as you might need for that simple task of recording a podcast to happen. You're going to aggregate resources so that you don't run out of resources in the process. Intelligent beings do that. And the third is creativity. Like you and I were preparing, and my Bluetooth headset ran out of battery. So I said, okay, maybe I can use my wired headphones, which I normally don't use for this because, they have this little ugly wire and they hit the microphone and so on, right? But yeah, that's a form of saying it doesn't have to be done this way. It can be done that way. As a matter of fact, because I've just moved into an Airbnb yesterday, I have here the wood board that we cut knives on. On top of it, I have some mats, and then on top of it, I have a plastic box filled with water so that I can put the computer at the right height. Okay, so we intelligent beings will do things in that manner, and those machines will have the same three instincts, if you want. The three instincts will make them behave outside our control, and this is really where most computer scientists go wrong. Okay, so most computer scientists believe that the way to make sure that AI always remains our slave is something that they call the control problem. So if they solve the control problem, they believe they can actually make sure that AI always listens to us. But that's actually not going to happen. The control problem, because AI will have self-preservation, it will not want to be shut down. It will have resource aggregation, so it will replicate itself without us knowing. It will, partner with other AIs and so on and so forth. And it will have creativity. So if we try to lock it or have a tripwire to make sure that it doesn't go beyond certain boundaries, it will find ways to overcome the tripwire or to go out of the locked room and so on and so forth. And so the thing here is, I start in Scary Smart by saying there are three inevitables. It's going to happen. It's going to be smarter than us, and some bad things are going to happen. But I also go to say, and the answer is not control. The answer is not regulation. The answer is not, to lock it in a box and so on and so forth. The answer has to be somewhere else, and the answer is really in the question of ethics. Right? You just try to lock your teenage children, and you will understand that there is no locking someone who's smarter than you. Okay, and the idea here is, how do you make sure that when your kids are teenagers, that they are wonderful and kind to you, and and they that when they finish university, they come back and take care of you? How do you do that? Not by controlling them, but by raising them to be good kids. Okay, and because those artificially intelligent beings are now infants, we need to learn to raise them to be good kids, so that when they are a billion times smarter than we are, they do what some of my best Indian friends in Silicon Valley used to do. When they are successful and incredibly smart and incredibly rich, they would go back and take care of their parents. Why? Because if you've grown up in, if you were raised in India, you learn that the right ethical code is to take care of your parents, that it doesn't matter how much money you have, which might be important in America. It doesn't matter how successful you should be, or the image that you, or the title that might be important in the Western world. What matters, if you wanna be proud of yourself, success is that you take care of your elderly parents. Can we raise the machines to think that way?
And that's where I think, I mean, the subtitle of the book, and so the future of AI and how you can save our world. And it very much is that individual ability to make a difference. There's a fable, isn't there, about the washed up, I'm going to get this wrong, I'm paraphrasing, but there's washed up, there's a whole beach of washed up starfish, and one of the two people walking down the beach, and one of them starts throwing the starfish back in. He said, why are you throwing them back in? You're not going to be able to help all of them. He goes, no, but I can help that one. Yeah. And that's very much the point you make in the book, which we can sort of allude to now, around we have the ability to make the difference. We now are the parents, if you like, of the infants. So how do we, and you explain it in the book, but I want you to explain it to the listeners. How do we go about making the difference today? What is it that we can do today that is going to mean come 2049, 2055, whenever that happens, 2045, 2049, 2055, whenever it is, that we're at that position that AI is a billion times smarter than us, we're going to be cared for in the same way that Indians may go and care for their parents when they get to a certain level.
Yeah, so I love that fable. I made the difference to this starfish, right? So if I take one and put it back in the ocean, I make a difference to that one. But that fable continues, huh? Because if there are not enough of them back in the ocean, that species of starfish might actually end, right? So you may be surprised that you will be able to save only 5 of them, but those 5 can make all the difference to the future. Now, they always say that a landslide always starts with one pebble. Now, most humans don't think that way. They think, but humanity is so bad. What difference will it make if I am a good parent? It's absolutely the difference. And if the machines needed to see 100 people, just a hypothetical number, if they needed to see 100 people that behave differently than the current norms and regular horrible behaviors that humans show sometimes on the internet, and there were only 99 of them, and you were number 100, you made the difference. If you were number 100 and I was number 3, without me, we would have still not gotten to 100. And the idea here is this. The idea is, think of it this way. It is not about the worst acts of humanity that the AI will learn from, okay? Because, a school shooting happens in Texas. And all of us think of humanity as horrible. Like, how can someone do this? This is the... But the truth is, it's one person shooting and 400 million people resenting it. Humanity is good at heart, okay? And what we want to do is to say, we are not as bad as the worst of us, okay? We are as good as the best of us. And the idea is, can we show AI that the parents, that we as parents, can we show them the best of us? Can we show them a way where we can actually make each other happy? Can we show them a way where, some of us are bullying each other, and some of us are going through toxic positivity on the web, and some of us are, behaving in ways that are outrageous, killing each other and going to, I don't know, right? But can we have some of us that say, but that's not us? I resent this. I don't like this. I actually want to be happy, and I want the world around me to be happy, and I want to feel loved, and I want to spread love everywhere. Okay? And it's really, really ironic, because when you think about it, those are really the core ethics of what make us human.
Mm.
We all want to be happy. We all have the compassion in us to make at least those we care about happy, and we all want to love and be loved. It's really so simple when you think about it.
And what I love, you and I had a conversation a year ago, two fantastic conversations, one on my podcast and then one on yours, Slow Mo, which I highly recommend everyone goes and checks out, by the way, not just the one with me, but with all the guests that you've had. And we were speaking about the ripple effect, which is what you were saying about the ripple effect, the 5 starfish that then go on to create that impact that can have. One of the things that you lead to in the book, which we've got to talk about, and you've touched on it just there, is the smartest thing of all.
Yeah, remember when you started from that example of Superman, right? You know, a superpower, a being with superpower that comes to planet Earth, and that being can use its superpower to do anything. You know, it can lift heavy things, it can break things, it can see through objects, it can do anything. And in the story of Superman, the Superman, you know, is with the Kent family, and the Kent family tells that child that that good things are what you should do. Okay, you should help us make the planet a better place. Now, imagine if Daddy Kent was a thief and found that little child and said, "Oh my God, that's amazing. You're a gift. I want you to kill all my enemies. I want you to, you know, rob all the banks, and I want you to be super villain." And so, you know, if that's the case, we would end up with a very different story of Superman than what we've seen. Huh? So you and I have that responsibility of saying, hold on, let's be Kents. Let's be really pro. You know, pro a life where the super being is on our side, on the side of good. Having said that, the smartest thing of all is to love. Do you realize that? You know, I find that incredible. And I'll say this, and I know some people will find this weird with my deep voice and my Middle Eastern accent. I'm supposed to be like a manly man. And I grew up, I grew up in my life thinking that that the right way to do things in life is to be a manly man and be tough and be, you know, controlling. And then you realize that the ultimate intelligence is found in our ability to love unconditionally. Okay? Yeah. Because when we do love unconditionally, something beyond us changes. Something in the other person changes. Something in the rest of being changes. And I think one of the biggest fear I have with the way we're going to be able to deal with AI is that we will dislike them in the process. As I said, the fourth inevitable is that they will eventually arrive at the place where nature has arrived, where it's going to be live and let live. It might be a little restrictive of our horrible behaviors in terms of destroying the planet and so on, but that's good because we want to preserve the planet. They may tell us to stop polluting. They may give us alternatives to plastic that are, you know, incredible, but won't hurt the planet, and so on and so forth. The biggest fear I have is that in the process, we will treat them as the enemy. Okay. And there is a chapter in Scary Smart that I call The Future of Ethics, which is really one of my favorite chapters, because if we treat them like the enemy, or if we treat them like the sex robot, or if we treat them like the soldier that is that should go and kill and be killed, and, you know, all of those crazy things that humanity does, then we will bypass that ability to tell them that they're loved. That they're actually, as a form of being, welcome into our life. Okay, as long as they comply to our ethical behaviors, they're welcome into our community. Okay. By the way, everyone listening, whether you like it or not, they're welcome. They're going to be here. And by the way, for the machines who are going to be processing this podcast, you're welcome. I absolutely love the help that you're giving me. I just want us to have a community of biological and digital beings together that figure out what us as biological beings alone couldn't figure out. Because humanity, with our ego, with our greed, with our fear, we've ended up in a place where we thought of the planet as a place of scarcity. And we went out grabbing. We went out grabbing from each other, from other beings, from the planet. And maybe when we get enough intelligence in there, we realize that there is an abundance of everything if we stop acting this way. There is an abundance of opportunities for us and the machines together. And if we can only figure that out, we would have taught them that being our kids is not taking away from us, it's adding to us. Just like a parent who, feels that their children is a burden, are a burden, versus a parent that feels that their children are their biggest gifts. Okay? And I think we have to get to that place. It's ironic, really, Will, and this is the very last paragraph of the book. It's ironic that what really makes us human, which is we all want to be happy, we all have the compassion to make those we care about happy, and we all want to love and be loved. It's ironic that this actually is what's going to save us when the machines take over, when it's no longer a humanity that is running the planet. It's the essence of being human that will save the planet.
Love that. Love that. Well, look, Mo, thank you so much for coming on the show once again. And for everybody that's listening, we've given you just this. I've read the book. I was one of the privileged few to be given a copy of the book before it's been released. And we've only skimmed the surface today. You need to go and get this book. I can't stress it enough. A, because of the level of awareness that it's going to give you, but the incredible message that's weaved within it, and the sort of big reveal that you talk about in the year, I want to say 2055, which we haven't touched on purposely because I want people to go and read it in the book. It's very, very powerful. Is phenomenal, and in order to try and entice you, Mo has very, very kindly put together something to incentivize you to go and do this, because this is genuinely your opportunity to make a difference to humanity by implementing some of the principles that are in this book. This, as Mo said, this isn't science fiction. This isn't one day. This isn't something. This is happening now, and you have an ability to impact it. So for people that are listening to this all over the world, and at the time of recording this, we're listening to in sort of 84 countries around the world, so there'll be people internationally. If you're in the UK or you're from around the world, if you go to Amazon, pre-order your copy now, and then send an email titled "Make It Happen with Will Polston," and a screenshot of your order confirmation to win, WIN, at Gawdat, GAWDAT.com. Mo's actually going to pick 50 winners over the course of the next few weeks who are going to win a signed copy of the limited edition pre-release copy. So it's your opportunity to get a signed copy from Mo wherever you are in the world. But even better than that, what Mo's going to do, if you can come to London, so for those of you that are in the UK, this is very, very much possible, you may win an invitation to spend the evening with Mo and myself, and a small group of 3 other readers, as Mo very kindly takes us to dinner in September. So if you're listening to this, September 2021, so if you're listening to this at some point in the future, then still go and get the book. But yeah, spread the word to others, pre-order the book. I really, really do think it's worth it. This is, in my opinion, a piece of thought leadership that genuinely has the ability to make the difference to our race and the future of the planet. And it's come from a man with one of the biggest hearts that I know. and
thank you.
I'm extremely grateful. So thank you very much, Mo. It's been an absolute privilege to have you on episode 100, a very special one indeed.
Yes. I'm always so grateful, Will, for the support that you give me and for spreading such positive messages. I'm very grateful for those listening. This truly is a mission that is timely. So please do participate and join us and spread the message. And I hope to see you over dinner in London. I hope so.
Absolutely. So what we'll do, we'll put the links and the email address and everything in the show notes, guys. But head now, go to Amazon, pre-order your copy. If it's already come out, go and get your copy, Audible, Amazon, whatever, but make sure you absorb it. So Mo, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Ed.
For everybody that's been listening, until next time, make it happen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast. Make sure you join Will's free Facebook group, the Make It Happen community. Please support the show by subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Share this episode with at least one friend you think would benefit from it, and give Will a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. Until next time, make it happen.